The colony was still burning when the Dustwalker arrived. Day stood at the observation window of his ship and watched the fires spread across the surface of New Busan. From this high up, the flames looked almost beautiful, orange and red lines cutting through the darkness of the planet below. But Day knew what those lines really were. Homes, schools, hospitals. 50,000 people had lived on in New Busan yesterday. Now there was nothing but ash and screaming. "We're too late," Yuna said quietly from behind him. She was holding a tablet, her fingers frozen over the screen. "The pirates hit them 6 hours ago. The distress signal only reached us 2 hours after that." Minho turned from the pilot seat. His usual smile was gone. "I'm picking up escape pods. Maybe two, maybe less. 200. Out of 50,000, Day's hands formed fists at his sides. "Get the survivors. Then set course for Station Prime." Hannah looked up from her communications panel. "The Galactic Union headquarters?" "Day, they won't listen. They never listen. They'll listen this time," Day said. His voice was calm, but there was something dangerous underneath it. "This is the 4th colony in 3 months. They have to do something." Nobody argued with him. They all knew it was probably useless. But they also knew that Day needed to try. 3 days later, the Dustwalker docked at Station Prime. The station was massive. A spinning wheel of metal and glass that housed the government of the entire Galactic Union. Representatives from 200 species lived and worked here. They made laws. They signed treaties. They decided the fate of billions of lives while drinking expensive drinks and wearing expensive clothes. Day had never liked this place. The council chamber was even worse. It was a huge circular room with seats rising up on all sides like a stadium. In the center was a small platform where speakers stood. Day felt very small standing there, looking up at all those alien faces watching him with bored expressions. High Commander Vel sat in the largest seat at the top. He was from a species that looked like giant insects. His body was covered in hard black shell, and his eyes were like 2 dark pools that showed nothing. Beside him sat Rasa, the Union diplomat. She looked more friendly, with soft blue skin and a gentle smile. But Day had learned long ago that her smile meant nothing. "Captain Day of the human vessel Dustwalker," Vel's voice echoed through the chamber. "You have requested an emergency audience. The council will hear your concerns." Day took a deep breath. 4 human colonies have been destroyed in the last 3 months. Over 200,000 of my people are dead. The pirate warlord Keth is moving through the Outer Rim with a fleet of warships, and he is killing everyone in his path. I am here to request military assistance from the Galactic Union." Silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, Vel made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Captain, we are aware of the situation in the Outer Rim. Our analysts have been monitoring it carefully." "Monitoring it?" Day's voice rose. "Children are dying while you monitor." Rasa leaned forward, her smile still in place. "Captain, please understand. The Outer Rim is a complicated region. There are treaties to consider, political relationships. We cannot simply send our fleet into another species' territory, Keth's territory. He's a pirate, a murderer. He is also the leader of a recognized government," Rasa said smoothly, "the Collective of Free Worlds. We signed a non-aggression treaty with them 12 years ago."
Ow.
Day stared at her. He could not believe what he was hearing. "You signed a treaty with pirates?" "We signed a treaty to prevent a larger war," Vel corrected. "Humans are new to this galaxy, Captain. You have been Union members for only 30 years. You do not understand how things work. There are bigger concerns than a few border colonies. A few border colonies. 200,000 dead, and to them, it was nothing." Day looked around the chamber. Some of the representatives were not even paying attention. One was sleeping. Another was playing with some kind of device in his hands. These were the leaders of the galaxy. These were the people who were supposed to protect the weak and punish the wicked. They did not care. They had never cared. "If you will not send your fleet," Day said slowly, "then at least give us weapons. Ships. Something to defend ourselves." Vel's dark eyes fixed on him. Humans are classified as a level 3 species. You are not permitted to possess military-grade weapons. It would violate Union law. Then change the law. The law exists for a reason. Young species cannot be trusted with dangerous technology. You might hurt yourselves. Or worse, you might hurt others. Vel waved one of his long arms. The Council will vote on whether to increase monitoring of the Outer Rim situation. That is the most we can offer. The vote took less than a minute. 187 species voted against intervention. 11 voted in favor. 2 did not vote at all. Day watched the numbers appear on the holographic display above his head. Red numbers, rejection, abandonment. Rasa was still smiling. Captain, I understand this is disappointing, but please trust the Council. We have guided this galaxy through many crises. The situation will resolve itself in time. These things always do. Day was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very calm. It's very soft. But somehow it carried to every corner of that massive chamber. It's fine, I'll do it myself. A few representatives laughed. Others shook their heads at the foolish human. Vel looked almost amused. Captain, what exactly do you think you can do? You have 1 small ship and a crew of 5. Keth has 500 warships. This is not a human adventure story. This is reality. Day turned and began walking toward the exit. He did not look back. Captain, Rasa called after him. Captain, where are you going? The Council has not dismissed you. Day kept walking. Outside the chamber, his crew was waiting. Yuna had a strange look on her face. She was holding up her tablet. I got everything, she said. Fleet positions, patrol schedules, defense codes. Their security is terrible. Minho is grinning now, his usual smile back in place. They really have no idea, do they? Hannah shook her head slowly. They think we're going to cry and go home. They think we're just going to accept this. Tay, the quietest member of the crew, spoke up. So what do we do now, Captain? Day looked at his crew. His family. These 4 people who had followed him across the galaxy through danger and darkness, without ever asking for anything in return? Now, Day said. We show them what humans do when nobody else will help. Behind them in the council chamber. The representatives were already moving on to the next item on their agenda. The human problem was solved. The primitives had been put in their place. They had no idea that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The message spread like fire through dry grass. It started on the Dustwalker. A simple transmission sent to every human ship, every human station, every human colony that still had a working communication system. The message was short. Just 3 sentences. The Union will not help us. Keth is coming for Earth. Meet at the wreckage if you want to fight back. The wreckage was an asteroid belt on the edge of human space. Long ago, a great battle had been fought there between 2 alien empires. Now it was just a graveyard of broken ships and floating rocks. It's too dangerous and too worthless for anyone to care about. It was perfect. Day arrived first with his crew. They found a large asteroid with caves deep enough to hide in and began setting up a base. Yuna worked for 3 days without sleep, building communication arrays and sensor systems from parts she found in the wrecked ships floating nearby. You think anyone will actually come? Minho asked on the 4th day. He was lying on top of the Dustwalker, looking up at the stars through a hole in the asteroid's ceiling. They'll come, Day said. They came. The first ship arrived on the 5th day. It was an old mining vessel called the Red Hammer. Captained by a woman named Sue. She was 60 years old, with gray hair and hands that shook slightly. But her eyes were sharp and angry. Lost my son on New Busan, she said when she met Day. Lost my grandson, too. I'm not a soldier. Never fired a weapon in my life. But I'm here. More ships came. 10 on the 6th day. 20 on the 7th. By the end of the 2nd week, over 100 vessels were hiding in the wreckage. They were not warships. The Union did not allow humans to have warships. These were cargo freighters, mining ships, transport vessels, science boats. One was actually a luxury yacht that belonged to a rich businessman who had lost his family on the third colony to fall. "This is insane," Hannah said one night, looking at the fleet list on her screen. "We have teachers flying cargo ships. We have farmers piloting mining vessels. Half of these people have never even been in a real fight." "Then we train them," Day said simply, and they did. Minho took over pilot training. He set up flight simulators using old video game systems that Una modified. The Union would have been shocked. Military training through entertainment software was considered primitive and dangerous. But it worked. Within 2 weeks, Minho had farmers flying in formation and executing combat maneuvers. Una focused on weapons. Union law said humans could not have military-grade weapons. Fine, Una did not build military-grade weapons. She built something else entirely. Mining lasers, she explained to Day one day, showing him a cargo ship she had modified. "Technically, they're for cutting through asteroids. But if I adjust the frequency and increase the power..." She pressed a button, and a beam of light shot out and cut through a piece of metal like it was paper. Day smiled. "What else do you have?" Una had a lot. She built drones from scrap metal and old computers. She designed missiles using mining explosives. She created electronic warfare systems that could hack into enemy shields and shut them down. Everything was made from civilian parts. Everything was technically legal. And everything was deadly. The Union never thought to ban this stuff because they never imagined anyone would use it this way, Una said, grinning like a child with a new toy. "Their laws are designed to stop us from getting their weapons. They never considered that we would just make our own." Tay set up a medical station in one of the larger asteroids. He trained volunteers in battlefield medicine, teaching them how to treat wounds and save lives in the middle of combat. He was calm and patient, never raising his voice, but everyone listened to him. Hannah worked on intelligence. She built a network of listening posts that intercepted pirate communications. Within a month, she knew where Keth's ships were, where they were going, and what they were planning. "He's getting ready for a big push," she reported today. Scouts have been mapping routes to the inner colonies. "He's going to hit 3 more worlds within the next 2 months. Then he's heading for Earth." Day nodded slowly. "How long do we have?" "For months. Maybe 5. For months to build an army out of nothing." The fleet kept growing. 100 ships became 150. Then 200. Humans came from everywhere. Factory workers from the industrial stations. Fishermen from the ocean worlds. Scientists from the research bases. Old people. Young people. Men and women and everyone in between. One day, an ancient cargo hauler arrived. It was so old that it barely worked. The pilot was a grandmother named Bong. She was 78 years old and walked with a cane. "I welded mining lasers to the front of my ship," she told Day proudly. "My grandson helped me before he died on New Busan. He was 12. He said I should fight if I got the chance." She paused. "So here I am." Day looked at this old woman, this grandmother who should have been at home resting, and felt something burn in his chest. "Welcome to the fleet," he said. Word of the human gathering reached the Union eventually. Commander Vell received a report about unusual activity in the wreckage. He glanced at it and laughed. "The humans are probably having some kind of cultural celebration," he said to Rasa. "You know how emotional they are. They're gathering to mourn their dead and sing sad songs." Rasa nodded. "Should we send observers?" "Why bother? They're harmless. In a few weeks, they'll get bored and go home. Let them have their little gathering." If Vell had sent observers, he would have seen something very different from a mourning ceremony. He would have seen 200. Ships practicing attack formations in the asteroid shadows. He would have seen weapons tests lighting up the darkness. He would have seen humans working together with a single purpose. Their fear transformed into something much more dangerous. He would have seen Day standing on the bridge of the Dustwalker, looking out at his impossible fleet and saying, "They called us young. They called us primitive. They said we don't understand how things work." The crew gathered around him. "They're right about one thing," Day continued. "We don't understand. We don't understand how you can watch innocent people die and do nothing. We don't understand how treaties matter more than lives. We don't understand how to accept the unacceptable. He turned to face them all. So let's show them what we do understand. We understand survival. We understand fighting for what matters. We understand that when you push humans into a corner, we don't lie down and die. His voice rose. We push back. A cheer went up through the fleet. It echoed through every ship, every asteroid base, every hidden corner of the wreckage. Somewhere out there, Keth was preparing his armada for the final conquest of human space. He expected easy targets. Helpless victims. Another set of colonies to burn. He had no idea what was waiting for him. Keth's armada moved through space like a swarm of angry insects. 500 warships. Each one was built for destruction. Each one was crewed by killers who had burned 100 worlds before humans even existed. They had weapons that could melt continents and shields that could stop nuclear explosions against them. They had 200 modified civilian ships and a lot of hope. We can't win a straight fight, Hannah said at the strategy meeting. I've run the numbers 1,000 times. Even with our new weapons, even with our tricks, 500 warships will destroy us in open combat. Nobody argued. They all knew she was right, so we don't fight straight, Una said. She was hunched over her tablet, scrolling through old data files she had stolen from the Union archives. We need something bigger. Something that changes the math completely, like what? Minho asked. A magic weapon? Una stopped scrolling. Her eyes went wide, actually, maybe. She turned the tablet to show the others. On the screen was an image of something massive floating in space. It looked like a metal moon covered in spines and towers. This is called Silence, Una said. It's an ancient weapons platform built during the Great War about 10,000 years ago. Two species fought each other until they both went extinct. This thing was their ultimate weapon. And it's just floating out there? Day asked. The Union found it centuries ago. They decided it was too dangerous to activate and too difficult to destroy. So they just left it there. Put up warning beacons, and told everyone to stay away. Tay leaned forward to look at the image. Does it still work? Nobody knows. The Union never tried to turn it on. They were too scared of what might happen, Una smiled. But I'm not scared. The Dustwalker made the journey alone. Bringing the whole fleet would attract too much attention. This had to be quick and quiet. Silence hung in the darkness of empty space, far from any stars or planets. It was even bigger than the images showed. Up close, it looked like a small moon that someone had covered with weapons. Giant cannons pointed in every direction. Missile ports dotted its surface like holes in a sponge. The whole thing was dark and cold and very, very dead. Picking up no power signatures, Minho reported. No life signs. Nothing. There's a docking port on the lower section, Una said. Take us in. The inside of Silence was even more unsettling than the outside. The corridors were designed for a species much larger than humans. Everything was cold metal and sharp angles. Emergency lights flickered weakly, their power almost completely drained after 10,000 years. Deyunate. And Hannah walked through the empty halls while Minho stayed with the ship. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. This place is a tomb, Hannah whispered. Let's hope it's more than that, Day said. They found the control room at the heart of the platform. It was a massive circular chamber filled with dead screens and dark consoles. In the center was a tall column that pulsed with the faintest hint of blue light. That's the core, Una said. Some kind of artificial intelligence runs the whole platform. If anything here still works, it starts there. She approached the column and began working on a panel at its base. Minutes passed, then hours. Day watched her hands move faster and faster, connecting wires, rerouting power, doing things with technology that he could not begin to understand. Finally, something changed. The blue light in the column grew brighter. Screens around the room flickered to life. A sound filled the chamber, low and deep, like a giant machine waking from a long sleep. Then a voice spoke. Query, what species has entered this facility? It was not a natural voice. It was flat and mechanical, but somehow also curious, like a computer that had learned to wonder. We're humans, Day said. From the planet Earth, a long pause. Human, species not found in database. Conclusion. Young species developed after my dormancy period. Interesting. Another pause. Query. Why have you come to silence? Do you intend to destroy this platform? No, Eunice said quickly. We need your help. Help. The AI seemed to consider the word. My designation is Oma. I was created to destroy enemies. I am very good at destroying things. But I have never been asked to help before. Explain your situation. Day told Oma everything. The pirate attacks. The Union's refusal to help. The human fleet, built from nothing. Keth's armada coming to destroy Earth. When he finished, Oma was quiet for a long time. Query. You have 200 ships. The enemy has 500. Your chances of victory are approximately 3%. Why do you continue to fight? Day thought about the question. He thought about New Busan burning. He thought about Sue, the grandmother who lost her son and grandson. He thought about all the people who had joined his impossible fleet because they had nothing left to lose. But it was Tay who answered. Because we're going to win or die trying, the medic said quietly. And honestly, we're not sure which. But we're not going to stop. Oma processed this for several seconds. It's fascinating, the AI said finally. I have observed many species during my existence. I have destroyed many more. Most species, when faced with certain defeat, choose surrender or retreat. Self-preservation is the primary drive of all biological life. The blue light in the column pulsed brighter. But you choose to fight. Against all logic. Against all probability. This is either extreme stupidity or extreme courage. Perhaps both. Another pulse. I find this ... interesting. Around the room, consoles began lighting up one by one. Screens showed power levels rising. Weapons systems coming online. Shields activating. Very well, humans, Oma said. I will help you. It has been 10,000 years since I served a purpose. I would like to see what your species does next. At Union headquarters, alarms began screaming. Commander Vell ran to the sensor station and stared at the readings. His dark eyes went wide with something that might have been fear. That's impossible, he whispered. That power signature. It's silence. Silence is coming online. Rossa stood beside him, her blue face pale. Who could have done this? The platform was supposed to be dead forever.
Al.
Al already knew the answer. The humans, he said. The humans woke it up. He turned to his staff, his voice rising. Contact their fleet immediately. They don't understand what they've done. That weapon destroyed entire civilizations. It could kill billions. A communication officer looked up nervously. Sir, we're trying. The humans aren't responding to our calls. Out in deep space, silence began to move. Slowly at first, its ancient engines firing for the first time in millennia. Then faster. Day stood in the command center, watching data flow across the screens. Oma was showing him the platform's weapons. The capabilities were terrifying. One of those cannons could destroy a planet. The full array could wipe out everything in an entire solar system. You could have done this yourself, Day said quietly. You could have destroyed Keth without us. Incorrect, Oma replied. I was programmed to require biological direction. Without someone to give me purpose, I am simply a sleeping giant. You have given me purpose. The AI paused. Also, I prefer not to act alone. The last time I operated independently, I destroyed my creators by accident. It WA's unpleasant. I prefer to have partners who can tell me when to stop. Day nodded slowly. We'll be your partners then. But Oma, I need to know. Can we actually win this? Silence hummed around them. When Oma spoke again, there was something almost like warmth in that mechanical voice. Go known. But I believe it will be interesting to find out. Far away, Keth's armada continued its advance toward human space. They did not know that the equation had just changed completely. The chaos was about to begin. The pirate captain named Gull was having a good day. His ship, The Fang was escorting a convoy of supply vessels to Keth's main base. The convoy carried fuel, weapons, and food stolen from the last 3 human colonies. It was easy work. The humans never fought back. They just screamed and died like all the other weak species Gaul had encountered. Boring, Gaul muttered to himself. He was a large creature with thick green scales and teeth like knives. I miss the killing. Escort duty is for cowards, his sensor officer spoke up. Captain, I'm detecting something strange. There's debris ahead. Looks like a destroyed ship. Gaul looked at his screen. Sure enough, there was wreckage floating in their path. Pieces of metal. Broken hull. Maybe a body or two. Human ship, Gaul said, recognizing the design. Probably hit an asteroid. Stupid creatures. Ignore it and continue. The convoy moved forward. Passing through the debris field, that was their first mistake. The debris was not from a destroyed ship. It was a trap. Hidden among the floating metal were dozens of small devices that Yuna had built in the wreckage. They looked like garbage. They were actually very sophisticated weapons. As the convoy passed through, the devices activated. Some attached themselves to the pirate ships and began cutting through their hulls with tiny lasers. Others released clouds of electronic interference that scrambled their sensors. The largest ones were bombs, packed with mining explosives, waiting for the right moment. Gaul's ship shook violently. What's happening? He roared. Something's on our hull. Multiple somethings. They're cutting through. Where did they come from? Before anyone could answer, the first bomb exploded. The blast took out a supply ship instantly. Then another bomb went off. And another. The convoy scattered, ships flying in every direction, trying to escape the chaos. But there was no escape from behind a nearby asteroid. The human fleet emerged. Minho was at the front, piloting the Dustwalker like it was an extension of his own body. He was laughing. Hello, friends. He shouted over the open communication channel. Nice day for a fight, isn't it? The human ships hit the scattered convoy like wolves attacking wounded animals. They were faster than they should have been, more deadly than anyone expected. Yuna's weapons tore through pirate shields like they did not exist. Mining lasers cut ships in half. Modified missiles found their targets with perfect accuracy. Gaul tried to rally his forces. All ships, form up. Return fire. They're just humans. But his ships could not form up. Their communications were jammed. Their sensors were blind. Every time they tried to organize, another human ship would appear from nowhere and hit them from an unexpected angle. On the Dustwalker Bridge, Hannah was speaking rapidly into her headset, but she was not talking to the human fleet. She was talking to the pirates. All ships, this is command. Emergency retreat to Sector 7. Repeat, retreat to Sector 7. Her voice was perfect. The translation was perfect. Half the pirate ships believed her and flew toward Sector 7, where a second wave of human attackers was waiting for them. That's cheating, Minho said with a grin. There's no cheating in war, Day replied. There's only winning and losing. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 12 pirate ships had been destroyed. 8 more were captured. The entire supply convoy was gone. Human losses, 2 ships damaged, no deaths. Joe escaped with his life, but just barely. His ship limped back to Keth's main base, trailing smoke and leaking fuel. When he reported what had happened, Keth did not believe him. Humans. Keth's voice was cold. He was larger than Gaul, with darker scales and eyes that held no warmth. You're telling me that humans destroyed an entire convoy? Humans with no military ships? No real weapons? They had weapons, Gaul insisted. Strange weapons. Things I've never seen before. And they fought like nothing I've ever encountered. They were everywhere at once. They played tricks. They lied on our communication channels. They turned our own ships against each other. Keth was quiet for a long moment. Then, he did something he rarely did. He smiled. Interesting, he said. Perhaps the humans are not as boring as I thought. News of the attack spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. At Union headquarters, Commander Vell received the report and read it 3 times. He could not understand what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he said to Rasa. "Human ships do not have weapons capable of this. Human pilots are not trained for combat. There must be a mistake." "There's no mistake," Rasa said quietly. She was no longer smiling. "I've confirmed the reports from multiple sources. The humans attacked a pirate convoy and won, decisively." "Where did they get these weapons?" Rasa pulled up a technical analysis on her screen. "Our scientists have examined the debris. The weapons are ... creative. They're made from civilian components. Mining equipment. Industrial tools. Things that don't violate any Union laws because we never thought anyone would use them this way." Vell stared at the screen. "They built their own weapons?" "They did more than that. They built weapons we've never seen before. Weapons designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in pirate defenses. Someone spent a lot of time studying their enemies." Vell felt something unfamiliar. It took him a moment to recognize it. "It was worry. Send observers," he ordered. "I want to know everything the humans are doing." But by the time the Union observers arrived, the humans had already hit 2 more targets. A pirate fuel station was destroyed in a surprise raid. A weapons depot was captured intact. Its guards overwhelmed by human boarding teams using tactics from ancient Earth warfare. A communication relay was hacked, giving Hannah access to even more pirate intelligence. Each attack was different. Each attack used new tricks. The pirates never knew where the humans would strike next, or what weapons they would face. Keth was no longer smiling. He sat in his command chair on his flagship and watched the reports come in, one disaster after another. The humans were destroying his supply lines. Without supplies, his fleet could not move. Without movement, his conquest would fail. He opened a channel to broadcast across the entire galaxy. "Humans," his voice boomed, "you have made a terrible mistake. I was going to conquer your worlds one by one. I was going to be merciful. Some of you would have been allowed to live as slaves." He leaned forward, his eyes burning with hatred. "That offer is now gone. I am bringing my entire fleet to your homeworld. I am going to burn Earth until nothing remains. Every human in the galaxy will die. Your species will become nothing but a memory." He ended the transmission. Day watched the message on the Dustwalker's screen. His crew was silent around him, while Minho said finally, "I think we made him angry." Day nodded slowly. Then he opened his own channel and sent a reply. It was much shorter than Keth's speech. "You're welcome to try. Cross the fleet." Humans heard the exchange and felt something shift inside them. Fear was still there, but it was smaller now. In its place was something else, something stronger. They had hurt the monster. They had made it bleed. Now they were going to finish the job. The Crimson Nebula was the most beautiful place they had ever seen. Clouds of red and gold gas stretched across the darkness of space like frozen fire. Stars glowed through the mist like distant candles. It would have been peaceful, not for the 500 pirate warships filling the view. Keth's armada had arrived. Day stood on the bridge of the Dustwalker and watched the enemy fleet spread out before him. Behind him, his own fleet was waiting. 200 ships crewed by teachers and farmers and grandmothers. And somewhere in the distance, silence floated silently, its weapons charged and ready. "All ships. Report status," Day said into his communicator. The responses came back one by one. Everyone was scared. Everyone was ready. On the other side of the nebula, Keth sat on his throne and smiled. He had finally caught the humans. No more tricks. No more ambushes. This would be a real battle, and real battles were something his fleet had never lost. "Destroy them all," Keth ordered. "Leave nothing but dust." The pirate fleet advanced. The first minutes of the battle were a disaster for the humans. Keth's ships were faster and stronger than expected. His captains had learned from the earlier attacks and prepared countermeasures. Human missiles were shot down before they reached their targets. Electronic warfare was blocked by new defenses. The tricks that had worked so well before were failing. ships began to die. The Red Hammer, piloted by Sue the grandmother, took a direct hit and broke apart. A transport vessel called Hope's End exploded when its shields failed. 3 more ships fell within seconds of each other. "We're losing," Minho shouted from the pilot's seat. He was flying harder than he ever had before, dodging enemy fire by centimeters. "There's too many of them." On her console, Hannah watched the casualty list grow longer. Each name was someone she knew, someone who had trusted them. "Today," she said quietly. "What do we do?" Day's hands were gripping the console so hard his knuckles were white. He watched another human ship disappear from the screen. Another friend gone. But this was not the time for grief. This was the time for action, Day said into a special communicator. "Fire." From across the battlefield, silence awoke. The ancient weapon platform's main cannon charged for exactly 3 seconds. Then it fired a beam of pure energy that cut through the nebula like a blade of light. The beam hit Keth's formation and erased 12 warships in an instant. They did not explode. They simply stopped existing. The pirate fleet scattered in panic. What was that? Keth screamed. "What just hit us?" His sensors gave him the answer, and for the first time in his life, Keth felt real fear. "Keep firing," Day ordered. "Push them back." Silence fired again and again. Each shot destroyed multiple ships, but something was wrong. Yuna's voice came through the communicator, tight with worry. "Oma's systems are failing. The platform wasn't designed for sustained combat. It's been dormant too long. We've got maybe 10 shots left before everything shuts down." 10 shots. Against hundreds of remaining ships, it was not enough. Keth realized this too. His fear transformed back into rage. "All ships ignore the platform. Focus on the human fleet. Kill the small ones while the big weapon dies." The pirates regrouped and charged at the human ships with renewed fury. Day made a decision. "All ships, listen to me," he broadcast across the fleet. "We're going to do something crazy. On my signal, everyone charges straight into the enemy formation. Get as close as possible. Create chaos. Make it impossible for them to aim without hitting their own ships." "That's suicide," someone responded. Day said. "That's how we win. Oma, when you get a clear shot at Keth's flagship, take it. Doesn't matter what's in the way." There was a pause. Then Oma's voice came through. "Understood. I will require approximately 90 seconds to charge for a shot of sufficient power." 90 seconds. An eternity in a battle like this, everyone Day said. "We just need to survive 90 seconds. Can you do that?" The responses came back. Some were scared. Some were angry. All of them said yes, and let's go. Minho shouted, and he pushed the Dustwalker's engines to full power. The human fleet charged. It was madness. It was chaos. It was exactly what humans did best. 200 ships flew straight into 500 enemies and started fighting at point-blank range. Mining lasers cut through pirate hulls. Modified missiles detonated against shields. Ramming attacks. Boarding actions. Every dirty trick humanity had ever invented was used in those 90 seconds. Yuna was firing every weapon the Dustwalker had while simultaneously hacking into enemy ships. Hannah was screaming false orders into pirate communications, making them shoot at each other. Tay was in the medical bay, treating wounded crew members brought over from damaged ships. Minho was flying like a demon, ducking through gaps that should have been impossible. Ships died on both sides. Humans and pirates mixed together in a swirling ball of destruction that no sensor could make sense of. On his flagship, Geth watched the chaos and felt something break inside him. This was not how battles were supposed to work. This was not war. This was insanity. "Pull back," he ordered. "Get clear of them." But it was too late. Silence had finished charging. "Clear shot acquired," Oma announced. Firing. The final beam was different from the others. Brighter, stronger. It punched through 3 pirate ships to reach its target. It hit Keth's flagship dead center. For one moment, the most powerful pirate warlord in the Outer Rim saw his death coming. Then the beam erased him from existence. His flagship vanished. The ships nearby were thrown aside by the blast. And then, finally, silence went dark. "My systems are failing," Oma said, his voice growing weaker. "Power reserves depleted. I will not be able to fire again." "It's okay," Una said softly. She was crying. "You did enough. You did more than enough." "Thank you for waking me," Oma said. "It was fascinating to see what your species could do. I believe you will survive. And I look forward to seeing what happens next." The blue light in the column faded away. Silence drifted, cold and dead once more. But the battle was over. Without Keth, the pirate fleet lost all order. Some ships fled. Others surrendered. A few tried to keep fighting, but were quickly overwhelmed by the remaining human ships. When the last enemy was gone, an exhausted silence fell over the Crimson Nebula. Day sat down heavily in his captain's chair. His hands were shaking. His face was covered in blood from a wound he did not remember getting. They had won 8T7. Human ships had been destroyed. Thousands of people were dead. The cost was terrible, but humanity would survive. At Union headquarters, the council watched footage of the battle in complete silence. They saw the chaos. They saw the sacrifice. They saw what humans were willing to do when pushed to the edge. Rasa was the first to speak. They were supposed to be primitives. Commander Vel did not respond for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different than before. Smaller somehow. They were supposed to wait for help. A week later, Day sent a message to the Galactic Union. It was broadcast across every channel, heard by every species in the galaxy. To the Galactic Council, he said, "We asked for your help, and you refused. We begged for your intervention, and you ignored us. So we handled the problem ourselves." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "We are not your enemies. We don't want war with the Union, but understand this clearly. We will never again wait for permission to defend our people. We will never again trust others to protect what we love. We are humans. We take care of our own." He leaned forward slightly.
"Next time.
Don't make us do it ourselves."
8.
The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, other species watched the message. Species who had been dismissed as young. Species who had been ignored. Species who had been told to wait and be patient and trust in the wisdom of their betters. They watched what the humans had done. And they started to whisper, if the humans could do it, maybe they could too. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere in the Crimson Nebula, floating among the debris of the greatest battle humanity had ever fought, the crew of the Dustwalker looked out at the stars and knew that everything had changed. "So," Minho said finally, breaking the long silence, "what do we do now?" Day smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "Now," he said, "we go home. We bury our dead. We rebuild what we lost." He looked at his crew, his family, and then we figure out what comes next. Together. The Dustwalker's engines powered up, and the little ship that had started a revolution turned toward Earth. Behind them, the Crimson Nebula glowed with the light of 1,000 fires, a monument to human stubbornness, human courage, and the simple truth that the galaxy had finally learned. When humans say fine, I'll do it myself, it is not a surrender, it is a warning.